Challenges are so similar as far as women not always being comfortable owning their own value or really realizing how their skills transfer into whatever it is they want to build. And so, yeah, from my own experience and my own mistakes, I actually can teach them how to do it in a much more effective way.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Kevin, and today we're joined by Tabatha Jones. She is the founder of Empowered Leadership Coaching, been in business for the last 9 years, but has been in total coaching for 20 plus years. Welcome to the show, Tabatha.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I am looking forward to this conversation.
Well, 20 years is a long time. I would love to kind of get into the origin story, the lore. What made you become a coach, and how did this whole thing turn into a business?
Wow, I love that question. So by nature, I'm a coaching kind of person. I love helping people get out of whatever they're into, help them move forward and build that plan. And I'd say truly origin story, it comes from being the oldest of 4 kids. In the corporate world, I just found that even before I had a leadership title, I was doing a lot of leading and coaching and helping people get better at their job with technical skills, but also with their soft skills, especially, presenting themselves and owning their value, and just really kind of naturally did that, and people gravitated toward me for it. What happened is I had been in a project management role. I'd started on the phone, so years before that, but had promoted up into project management. And in that role, I wasn't really taking care of myself as well as I could have been. I was doing all of the major projects for a large telecom company on the technical side. I was leading 3 teams of people. I literally stayed in that role for 10 years, trying to be more perfect, thinking someday I'll get promoted. Someday it's going to happen. I got my bachelor's degree. I did everything I thought I needed to do, and still it didn't happen. And what did happen is we came upon a reorg, and that happens a lot in the tech and telecom world. And this time, our department leadership team was told that we all had to apply for our jobs because there was going to be a reduced number available. And as I started looking at those job postings, I realized I was already doing the majority of the job ahead of me without the pay and without the title. So I said, you know what, screw this. I'm going to apply for that job and see what happens. So I interviewed for it. I was so excited. I got the offer, and the offer came in. I want you to hold on to your seat. The offer came in with a 4% pay increase. And that was the day I said, no, thank you. And so I walked out of the office and I said, I'm not interested. It's time for me to go find my next career. And within 15 minutes, I was pulled into the CFO's office, and she sat me down and said, we expected you to accept this offer. We don't have anybody else. Then she proceeded to tell me all about my value, the things I help other people with, right? But I wasn't doing it for myself. And she asked me, what would it take to make this offer more palatable? Having never actually negotiated for myself, I just kind of smiled and I said, well, I feel like I deserve a senior manager title, and I would like a 15% increase. And she said, I assume you mean on top of the 4%. And as I was smiling and nodding my head yes, inside I was like, no, how did that just happen? And she said, okay, so we'll get that done. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I hadn't asked, if I hadn't just put a pin in it and said, no, I'm not doing that, I would have taken that position with a 4% pay increase. So as I was walking out of that office thinking I should have asked for 25 because that yes came back really quickly. So clearly there was already some wiggle room. But that was the day that I said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not playing small. I'm getting back in the driver's seat of my own career, and I am taking charge. Fast forward 10 months, there's another reorg. And at that time, I had been part of the California region. We were going to a division structure, which meant 7 regions were coming together under one structure for the information services team. And I looked at the roles. There were already 7 directors that had to reapply for their jobs. And we were going to 4. And I said, you know what? I'm applying for this director role. As I started hearing from other directors that they were being interviewed and realizing I had not yet been interviewed, I reached out to the hiring manager and just asked for a conversation. And I said, I understand other people are being interviewed for this role, yet I have not been scheduled for an interview. Can you help me understand the status, really what's going on? And she said, well, as you know, we have 7 directors. We're reducing to 4. Our goal is to put existing directors into those roles. If we don't fill those 4 roles with existing directors, I've been told to only look outside the team at other people that have a director title. So I thanked her and I said, I really appreciate you being so candid. I would now like to be very candid with you. And at that time, I started sharing with her all of the things that she wouldn't have known based on my HR file. What I had really been doing for the 10 years that I was sitting there with a project manager title, on paper and on an HR record, I looked like I had just been promoted to senior manager. As I explained my background and shared my success and accomplishments and my value, I found that I was flying to Denver 2 days later to interview in front of a panel of 7 people. And I nailed it, landed that promotion, and then was promoted an additional couple of times. So I went from sitting in a role for 10 years to 4 promotions over the next 10 years. The last promotion came at, surprise, surprise, yet another reorg. In 2019, we were going from a division structure where now we had 4 divisions into a corporate structure, so one big team. And it involved moving about 400 people into this organization. And the dream of this team, this new leadership team, was that they were going to bring us all over as is. But when I started looking at titles and who my peers were and what they were doing, I realized there was definitely some things out of balance. So I asked for a conversation with the head of the department, where I proceeded to talk about the things that I had been doing, why I deserved a promotion and a pay raise to come into that team. I just said, I would expect you to come to me with an offer, not just an assumption. It took a little bit of strength there because sometimes women who are a little assertive are viewed differently. What happened is I got the title, the executive director title, I got the pay raise, and that led to the door opening up for my peers. So the other women who were in director and senior director roles, they also got that title and pay raise. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't asked. So that's kind of the origin story, and realizing throughout my career that I had been helping people, helping them get promoted, helping them get better jobs, perform better. I had decided in I think it was about 2017-ish, to start my own business while I was still in corporate. And that came about because I was at a women's conference, and this whisper was, it felt like it was my own voice behind me just saying, why aren't you up there leading this thing? You've always said you want to do this. And then all the voices come in that say why I can't do it, right? You don't have a master's degree. You don't have this. You don't have that. And that whisper was so loud by the time I got home that I decided to hire a business coach and start the track. So that is really the origin story and the things that came together to get me to this spot.
Fast forward to today, though, like earlier you mentioned you help people get promoted and get better jobs. For your coaching business right now, who do you kind of help in? Is that the same problem that you help them with these days?
I do still have clients coming in for that, job searches, promotion, and executive leadership. My main business right now is what I call my corporate escape side. I call myself the corporate escape Sherpa. And really, my dream client in that space is a woman 45 plus who is dreaming about what's next. She's dreaming about that business. She maybe has that whisper that says, why haven't you done this thing yet? And she's ready to start building the next chapter while she's still in that day job collecting that paycheck that's going to fund all of the great things she wants to do as she's getting started. These women are outgoing. They are generally in leadership roles, so they already know a lot about how to lead and how to manage and how to get things done. And they're just looking for support and figuring out how to make it happen while they're working in these extremely demanding jobs. And yeah, as you know, we all have demands outside of work too, but I'm living proof that it can be done. Our challenges are so similar as far as women not always being comfortable owning their own value or really realizing how their skills transfer into whatever it is they want to build. And so, yeah, from my own experience and my own mistakes, I actually can teach them how to do it in a much more effective way.
So now that we kind of know like the problem you solved, the outcome that you're trying to help them with that next new chapter, right? Let's talk about marketing for a second. How do these 45 plus year old women find you, right? Like what kind of marketing are you doing right now?
I've experimented with a ton of things. What works best for me, it's referral. So past clients or clients coming back because they're ready for the next thing. Also, I've had clients come from LinkedIn, just organic content that has brought them into the funnel, into the web. Past coworkers, people that I've worked with in the past that have said, you know what, I want to do what you did, teach me how. And I also have, a couple of obviously lead magnets. So as people are getting into my email list, we send them definite offers. We've got a Black Friday offer coming up right now. But that tends to keep people coming through. I'm experimenting a little bit with some ads because I've created a couple of AI tools that ads are a little bit more of an effective way to get them out into the world. So we're doing a little bit of experimentation with that right now.
You said that the primary way people are finding out about you are through referral. You have LinkedIn, lead magnets, and you're experimenting with ads. What kind of ads are you experimenting with? Is it mostly like LinkedIn ads or like Facebook ads? Kind of curious there.
I've experimented in the past with LinkedIn and I didn't really love it. The cost per click is definitely higher. So right now we're looking more into the Facebook ad space.
Ah, interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are finding out about your services. They're raising their hand, asking about how do I work with you. And so one of the things I'm very, very curious about is like, what does a coaching engagement with Tabatha kind of like look like? Is it mostly one-on-one? Do you do group coaching? Kind of curious there.
Yeah, I love one-on-one coaching because it can be so much more customized for the person, meeting them exactly where they're at and bringing them along on the journey with me as we're getting their business built or the career side, if that's what we're doing. So I do have one-on-one coaching. It's limited, so only a couple of clients at a time, just based on how much time that takes. And then I do have a group program also where we help people build those businesses in more of a community container. One of my AI tools comes with a community aspect, and that's actually my lower cost entry point to help people build that foundation before they start jumping into spending a lot of money on coaching. And I created that because I was finding women were coming to me wanting coaching, wanting to be in the group, but they just weren't ready yet. That idea wasn't yet fleshed out. Their true purpose and understanding their why wasn't there yet. And I'm a firm believer, and as someone who spent a ton of money on coaches before I was really ready, laying that foundation, understanding your why, your who, and your how before you start investing in those higher ticket programs. So I do have a couple of levels just based on, my belief that I need to meet people where they're at.
You mentioned AI tools a few times. Like, how did that come into fruition? Like, what made you think about like building these AI tools and what are they?
Oh my gosh. So it happened, literally, it got done so fast because I had a day where I was expecting a very robust contract to be signed, and the robustness went away as I got a no. And then it has come back around. It's just a little bit different than we originally planned. So really excited about it. But that no hit really hard. And I thought, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go get in my swimming pool. I'm grabbing a high noon and I'm just going to go float in the pool for the next 2 hours. And so that is what I did. And as I was floating in the pool, I thought, wow, you've had these AI things on your brain. You whiteboarded them out. Why not figure out how to start building them? I did. I took my disappointment and turned it into something new. And really the foundation is the first one I call Career Sherpa AI. When I was seeing people on social media, especially the Nextdoor app, right? Who helps with resumes? Who helps with this? Who helps with that? And the response is always just go to ChatGPT, just use AI. And I'm like, oh, AI is great if you want to sound like a specific AI. So ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever you use, it's great and it'll get you the foundation, but it's going to sound a lot like everyone else. So how do I shift it, make it more specific toward midlife job seekers, and help them truly understand how you package your 20 plus years of experience into a resume, into an interview, into all of the things. So that's one. The other tool is Biz Builder AI. And I built this tool because it helps people start with that foundation. When a woman is, and men can use it too, I would say I work with women and a few lucky men, but when someone is working in a full-time corporate job, one of my strategies is baking in 1 hour per day to start building your business. 5 hours a week over, 52 weeks, that really adds up. And most of these people are not in a hurry to leave. So spend the hours really strategically. So this tool helps them get really clear. Their why, what, who, and how. It helps them figure out what they really want to do. These are my skills. What are some great businesses I can start? How do I start? Visibility hacks. There's 5 Sherpas in there that will answer as I do. And then it actually, both of the tools, they guide people to book a call with me after a certain amount of interactions or when they hit a certain point in the questioning. So it has been very helpful. I'm getting excellent feedback. I just launched them about a month ago. The Biz Builder, it actually comes with the community. So once a week we have calls. So there's hot seat coaching and Q&A, and I'll share strategy just so that we can get those foundations built really strongly and, saving people thousands of dollars, because you and I both know how much coaching costs sometimes, just thousands of dollars, and trying to figure out all the things. Can't figure out all the things if you don't have the foundation.
Where are you hosting all this? Is it mostly on School, Circle? There's so many different platforms these days.
Yeah, Kajabi and Zoom. So I kind of love Kajabi just because I can keep everything in one place, including, my podcast and whatever else is out there. So I'm hosting it there. And, like I said, we just started selling that. It's been less than a month that it's been available. And we're starting to get people coming into the community, and calls actually will be starting next Tuesday.
Congratulations there. I love
Thanks.
that.
Yeah, it's a baby, little love baby. But just trying to figure out, how do you help more people in the best way possible so that they don't end up in that space. And full transparency, I spent about $15,000 on the things I thought I needed before I was really ready for them. I was putting the cart before the horse in a lot of ways, because corporate paycheck, I had plenty of money to do it. But none of these coaches ever once said, you're not ready for this program yet. You need to go figure out X. And I want to shift that for people.
Speaking about more scalable solutions and stuff, are you currently doing all the one-on-one by yourself? Has the thought of hiring other coaches ever crossed your mind, or do you like just being a part of the work for the one-on-one aspect?
I really like being part of the work, and hiring people, it may happen in the future, but right now I just kind of limit the pipeline a little bit. So that's working. And then, the other side of it is, let's say more impact with less of my time comes in, so that I can continue to serve people the way I'd like.
Something I am curious about though, you talked about your cool AI tools that you built out. I guess I'm kind of curious, where do you want this coaching business to take you in the next few years, right? Do you have any secret dreams no one knows about? Anything like that?
Yes, I do plan to certify my career coaching side and have some people start picking up that piece of it so that I can focus more fully on the business building and corporate escapes. And part of that is because I do some, I guess not really side work, I do some coaching with a nonprofit and helping their students with their job search and their, presenting themselves and getting ready for the world outside of college. And so being able to certify people and have them take that on potentially with more nonprofits is really what I would love to do. And then continue to do the one-on-one, again, still on a fairly limited basis. With the AI tool, what I'd like to do once it gains a little more traction is sell the AI component of it itself to other coaches. So for example, say a sales coach, who is selling their great services, but somebody's not quite ready. Well, let's get them this tool so they can get ready and come in full force for that sales coach or whomever it is.
Something I'm also very curious about too is what are some of the challenges that you're kind of noticing in this season of business right now? Anything that's kind of unexpected that you've kind of noticed, I guess?
Challenge-wise, yeah, definitely this year, people are holding on to their money a little bit tighter. And it's completely understandable. We've got a lot going on out here in the US, as everybody knows. And so, the cost of things are going up. Some things feel a little bit unstable. And so people tend to be holding on to their money just a little bit tighter and not making decisions as quickly, which is fine. To me, a no is usually a not right now. But that's one of the things that is kind of standing out. It's just mindset and people taking care of themselves and their families. I would say the other thing for women who want to escape, that don't want to be in this corporate job forever, it's kind of dragging them down. It's mindset shift is a piece of the challenge, and helping them through that piece, because there's this, we've all heard the golden handcuffs, right? Well, what will I do for benefits? Well, I am used to making this much money and that's what I need. I'm like, well, do you need to make that much money, or do we maybe not buy a Louis bag every year? Or do we maybe make the vacation a little less? Can we figure out how to tweak that? So I would say just those types of things I'm seeing. And then trending in the job market, definitely competition. We've got all the ageisms and things like that that are happening. People are still landing jobs. I just was working with two people yesterday that are in the interview process. It's slower. And there are definitely a lot of reorgs going on, especially in the tech space right now. And people haven't really started building that escape plan. And so then that extra pressure is there. So that's kind of where I come in and say you should always have another way to bring income in. So whether that side hustle stays a side hustle or becomes your dream business, But there's just, those I'd say are the main trends and challenges I'm seeing right now.
It's kind of funny with the golden handcuff thing. I kind of relate to it because I think about my pharmacy friends, right? They always say they want to get out and they want to start their own business and stuff. But then when it comes to like the sacrifices, I feel this hesitancy to invest in themselves or anything like that, or coaching, and especially. It's really interesting. Yeah. Speaking about investments, I do want to play a game with you, Tabatha, if you're open to it. It's through the lens of business investments, right? And so, as you know, entrepreneurs, coaches, we invest into things like coaching, training, marketing, team members, master. There's a lot of things that we invest in, right? Psychologists, right? Like, pretend I'm the psychologist, you're the patient sitting on the chair. I'm going to prompt you a phrase and you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And if there's a story behind that, I would love to hear it. Okay? There's four prompts, and we'll start off like this. First business investment you ever remember making?
It was a business coach. She was amazing. She's someone that really helped me start laying that foundation. I wish I had focused a little bit more on that piece of it initially.
Which part do you wish you focused on a bit more?
I would say really the why, like what was driving me toward starting this business, so that it would always be right in front of me and it would always be the thing that kept me going when things got hard. That foundation is so important because there are ebbs and flows in entrepreneurship. It's very different from corporate. It is very different. I've had to redefine my term of success. What does it mean to me? And that business coach, she was amazing. I absolutely still am in contact with her. She sends me referrals. I wish that I had, and she didn't do this, it was me. I wish I had taken the time to go deeper on my why and go deeper to build that before I went and hired my next coach.
Okay, I love that. Next one. Last business investment you made?
The last business investment I made was I hired a coach. You're going to keep hearing I hired a coach. I hired a coach to help me write a book. I wrote a book on career advancement for women that we published last year. I would say that would be my last business investment where I actually paid. Non-paid was where I invested time in learning how to create and code an AI tool.
Best business investment you made?
I'm going to go back to the business coach. I mean, just having someone who had already walked the walk and talked the talk and could guide me, because she probably shortened my runway by about 5 or 6 years, I would assume, just based on what I learned in that. I think it was about 12 weeks that I worked with her. Had I tried to figure all that out on my own, bearing in mind AI really wasn't a thing then, it would have taken me a lot longer to get going.
Last question for you. Worst business investment that you kind of wish you got your money back from?
Ooh, I knew you were going to ask that. Okay. Worst business investment was a sales program that I did not do enough due diligence on. So I always take ownership for my decisions. And I am going to caveat this before I go in by saying some good things came out of it. I learned some things. I signed my first client. I made some really great friends and connections in this program, but it was very, please don't take this wrong if this applies to you, very millennial bro style sales, which is not a Gen X woman type of sales. So it was very uncomfortable for me and I didn't enjoy it. It was about taking people really to the dark side of things. Bear in mind at that time I was doing more career coaching and people already felt things were dark enough, but like making them get into the pit of pain and then being the savior and bringing them out and then basically strong arming them until they submitted. Not my style at all. So they were so good at what they did. I signed up for a second round. Just wanted to kick myself. So, again, good things came out of it. I did take what I could from it. But for me personally, it just wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good personality fit. It was about, really fighting for sales. In fact, they brought in a coach that was about, I don't want to say the name of it, so I got to make sure my terminology is okay. But it was really about fighting and overcoming the objection. So every time you got a no, it's like coming back with something else, like you're in a boxing ring. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to give somebody something
Yeah.
to think about and then come back. Let's regroup when you're ready and let's go forward, which, has
Wow.
probably lost me a few sales because I'm a little bit more casual about it. But I also know that I don't want to bring someone in the hard way. When I brought that client in through that program, that's what it was. It was hard because she felt like, she had just caved basically. There was this weirdness with how I was feeling about it. And it just didn't feel good. When someone's invested
Mm,
and they want to do something and they're doing it because they made a conscious choice about it, they go for that investment so much harder. They go for the return.
yeah, I don't really relate to that. Like high ticket sales, bro, energy, sales vibe. It's like the worst. I come from that world. I've done high ticket sales, right? I was head of sales for like a lot of these popular YouTubers, right? And something that a lot of sales bros don't think about, they think about, ooh, the cash collected. Yes, I got the sale. But something that they always forget is like, yeah, but you also have to deliver results and work with this client. So if you bring someone on that
Right.
was not a good fit, it's hell for fulfillment or the coach or whatever the back end too. It's just not short term. It's great, but long term, I think people sometimes forget about it. So I think we're in alignment right there.
Absolutely. And, knowing that referrals are a big part of my business, I wouldn't want people to not refer me. And they're out there saying, oh, she's a shark on the sales. But the rest of it, I'm like, no, the rest of it's the important part.
As you're sharing these stories, right? You kind of alluded to it earlier, but how has your decision-making process changed and what to invest in and what not to invest in? How has it kind of changed over the years?
Well, it's changed a lot, I would say. So, coming from corporate, again, having made a really great salary and all those things, I learned that you could throw money at problems and fix it. What I have learned since, and because I have made a couple of bad investments or chased the shiny objects that really weren't the solution I needed, I've learned to slow my roll a little bit. And, as a coach, you get pitched to all day, every day. And I'm very cautious with my time. I'll go and do the research. I'll sit with it and think, do I really need this or is it something else I'm looking for? So definitely I've slowed down on the decision process overall just to make sure that it is a good fit. It is really what I need and that I believe that there is a great ROI on it. Whether it's financial or, mindset or whatever, is the ROI really worth what I'm being offered? And I've been offered some pretty high ticket things, which I was like, wow, did she say that out loud? And then I'm like, oh, I could do that. But, it just isn't always the right time for whatever that thing is.
Last segment, it's called overrated, underrated. So this is where I would like your advice on something. As a business owner, you've probably gotten a lot of advice. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it solicited, probably like 90% of it unsolicited, right? And so as you
Always.
reflect on all the advice that you've gotten, what is some of the most like underrated pieces of business advice and what are some of the most overrated?
Underrated, I would say visibility and visibility strategy and the importance of not just visibility, but intentional visibility where you're building relationships. I talk about this a lot with my clients. Somebody had told me a long time ago, even in my career days, how important visibility was, but never really gave the explanation. And definitely, visibility is important. It's critical to your survival as a business owner or as a corporate employee. So I'd say visibility is probably the most underrated, and I wish that it was louder for the people in the back all the time. Most overrated advice is you should always have a coach. I'm a coach. I believe you should have a coach when it's the right coach and it's the right time for you. There are a lot of people that are just, oh, you need to work on this, you need to work on that, you need to work on the other things, and you've got to really watch it. And I would say the other underrated things, we're going to go back and forth a little bit. The other underrated is working on your mindset. You really have to work on your mindset a lot as an entrepreneur, especially as one who was in the corporate world for so long. I always say I had more than 20 years in leadership. I was in corporate for 33 years. And, the mindset shift that comes with that, the fact that, you kind of have to reestablish your identity. You have to reestablish what success looks like because let's face it, we have some really spectacular months and we have some months that kind of are not so spectacular. And we've got to be able to know it's not just you, there's something going on. So let's break it down, let's figure it out, and let's move on. So I would say that's two underrated and one overrated.
Yeah, I think that last part too, right? Like where we have the same, like when I made that transition from corporate over to entrepreneurship, right? or starting my own business. I think I came in with the same expectations, especially with revenue and money, like where I would have really high months and then really low months. And honestly, I felt like a degenerate gambler sometimes because I was like, oh my God, I feel super, super high and super, super low. But I think something that helped me during that time was this like famous Peter Drucker quote where he says, all profit is derived from risk. And as a business owner, we inherently take more risk, which is the reason why we deserve to probably profit more. But as an employee, we take way less risk, and we can see that's why we have the consistent paychecks a lot of times too, right? It's really, really interesting, but I love that. I love your underrated, overrated, underrated advice.
There's so much out there. And, I think that part of the risk taking, which is so important, one of the things that I was talking to a coach who does similar work to me, but with a little bit of a younger audience. And I didn't know that at first. And we were talking and she said, well, of course, take the risk. It's worth it. You can always go back to corporate if it doesn't work out. And I said, that's exactly where we're different. I said, I'm not going to tell you to take the risk. I'm going to tell you to build it before you bounce from corporate, because when you're in your 50s, it's not as easy to go back. And if you do go back, you're likely going to be taking a pay cut or a lower role just based on the way the job market is right now. So risk is so good, so important, so different outside versus inside corporate. But it also, your tolerance for risk changes based on your age and where you're at in life. I would never tell a 55-year-old, yeah, just go start. You can make it happen. Leave your job. I'm always, even when they want to look for a new job, I'm like, stay in that job. Let's work their way out and do the next thing. Risk is fun, but also we have to be very calculating with it sometimes.
Yeah, there's a reason why, hypothetically, if I got into like 10 car accidents like in the next week, I'm pretty sure no car insurance company is going to want to insure me because I'm too much of a liability and stuff. And so, yeah, I think that muscle of learning to assess risk is like really, really important. And I think as an entrepreneur now, like I have a better gauge for it versus like when I first started. So, yeah, really interesting stuff. Last question for you, Tabatha. How can people find you and connect with you?
The easiest way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I'm Tabatha Jones with all A's, Tabatha. That is the easiest way. You can also pop over to my website, corporateescapesherpa.com. It's corporateescapesherpa.com, just one word, and absolutely learn a bit more about me. You can check out the Freedom Builder system and the AI tools, or book a call. I'd love to chat.
Tabatha, it was really, really interesting hearing your story. I think a lot of times, like, the stories that get the most publicity are kind of like, oh yeah, the rags to riches, like, oh yeah, I just quit my job overnight and I started this coaching business. But you can tell through your stories, like through your 4 promotions or 5, I lost count, honestly, but through your multiple promotions, right? How this was kind of like the fundamental building blocks for your future business. I thought that was really, really interesting. I loved how you're speaking about your ideal client profile and how it ended up being yourself. I find that that's the trend a lot of times. But then there was some other stuff too, which was really interesting. Like I thought you were so generous with sharing your experiences with the good investments, the bad investments, and really sharing your advice to the listeners here. And the last thing that really stood out to me was we didn't really talk about it that much, but it really seems like rather than dreaming the whole like Skynet, like, oh, AI is going to replace all coaches, you're really, really embracing it and creating new tools to increase accessibility for people that probably need coaches as well. This is my long-winded way of just saying, Tabatha, like, I really appreciate your work. Your work really, really matters. And just thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and just sharing your wisdom. So thank you so much, Tabatha.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much for having me, Kevin. This was a lot of fun.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.